Hello dudes and dudesses. I have been working with storage system the past like 2 weeks and that my head is spinning. And in this video we should have been talking about this, the FabMiss 3.2, which has overflow protection and a lot of new tech or developments that I got from my Discord community. But we won't, because I made a FabMiss 3.3, so this video will skip this one. I will leave it in the world download because there is some downsides to the 3.3, which makes you might want to use the 3.2 instead. And here you have it, the FabMiss 3.2, and I will leave it, as I said, in the world download. You will spawn in over there, so you'll just have to double back. This is becoming quite a mess. As per tradition, I will start by going through one slice because it's still totally slice based, and then we will go over here and see the system in action because there's also some things that I cannot show you on the slide. Alright, what's happening here? You can see it looks familiar. You still have the storage chests here. You have a larger one there, but with 5. And here you have 3 because I have to make room for visual indication of overflow. And that's what this is for. You could actually remove this and put in 2 chests more right here. Then you just wouldn't have a visual indication of overflow right here. Then you would only have it where the overflow items went. What's going on in this? It's still the same. You have a filter chest down here set up like this. I'm saying it's still the same because I'm assuming you have watched the other videos and maybe I can't. So this is how you set up the filter chest. You can have 50 items, different items in one chest, and you don't have to have anything up here in the chest where the items come down because it's all determined by this filter chest. And as you can see, if I take out, we filter now in this column for redstone block. If I take it out, something happens. Now let's look at the part down here with the chest. As I said, when you take out an item, something happens. But what happens in this is different than it was, well, kind of different than it was in the 3.1, because as you can see now, the piston retracts. And you can also see that now it's soul sand instead of mud blocks. And in this setup, you cannot use mud blocks. I'm not really sure why. I don't know why the properties are different, but it has to be soul sand so to have the retraction move. And this setup here is almost identical to a setup that one of my Discord members made. I mean, I have to say it's been such a pleasure seeing my Discord community go totally ham on this system and coming up with ideas and making their own modifications to it. And I've just been looking along and picking up good ideas. And the reason I picked up this right here is mainly because it's cheaper. I was using observers, and another thing is it is based on, as you can see in here, that there's used water on the rails to slow it down. I used 2 observers pushed together, and this is slightly faster, and it is also more Mojang intended gameplay because the observer thing is probably some kind of glitch. So I kind of thought this was neater, cleaner. I will try and remember to bring up the names of specific members of my Discord community for their contributions along the way in the video. But I mean, a lot of people have been involved, and some have just, made one idea, and some have come with whole systems and stuff like that. And I kind of just took my pick of what I wanted. So you have the minecart going down here as it did before, and it still snaps to the rails down here and go over here and go up here. Everything is unchanged. Then it goes over here, it takes out the filter item again right here, and via these rails right here, detector rail, and this rail, which I can't remember what's called. It's going into this dropper, is pushed down, and by a water stream pushed back into this hopper and down to the chest right here. And then the filter is closed again and ready for another minecart to go out and distribute things. But this part here is really changed. And the idea I got was that could I somehow make it faster? And what I've done, as you can see right here, is that I placed a minecart on a rail on these hoppers. Now, if I place a minecart right here, as I will do in a second, you can see that this pulls out the items much faster than a hopper can. And that gives us the opportunity to speed up the cycle of minecarts that are delivering to the system if we can just get them back fast enough. And what I've done to send the minecart when it comes back is a detection system, which is basically just an observer looking at this detector rail going down here, a small delay right here, going up, being detected by this observer, being detected by this observer, pushing this piston with an observer that is facing upwards, and firing this piston, which pushes the minecart back. And if we can see here, let's just remove that. You can see here that if I place this here and then I add 64, then you can see how much it will take when it goes every time. So if I just push this, and it goes back, you can see there, you can see it go back, you can see it has left 26. So it will always take more than half a stack. And that's kind of how we made the system, that it always puts in roughly between 32 and 34. So it will easily take out that in that short period of time. So that's how we sped up the system. Now, how did we get room for this? Because before, when the minecart was going over here and there was a hopper underneath, right up there, we pulled out the items, and then we had an item filter for unstackable items right here that we used for pulling out the minecarts, which are how you make a filter. Let me just try and show you right here. Normally what you do is you make it take out 4 like that, and you made it go under some kind of chest, and it pulls out some items, and that's when it goes over here, it finds the chest. Let me just make sure that this is right. It finds the item right here and opens up or something, does something when it opens that chest right there. That's how it works. It's a movable, basically a movable item filter. This was the item filter that we had in the FabMiss 3.1. And this was the item filter that we had in the 3.2. And as you can see, it's all gone now. And the question, of course, is how? How is it gone? It's gone because in these 2 hoppers down there, we pull out the minecarts. The question is then, how on earth do we pull out the minecarts? If you know anything about minecarts, you know that it always pulls out the first slot. And I will show you, because that's another invention I got from my Discord community. So this is how it looked before, but in our system, our new system, this is actually how the items are placed. And as it always takes from left towards right, it means that we can pull out these 4 so that when the minecarts get up on top, only these are left. Let's try and see how it goes. Like that. And like that. And if we go up here quick enough, you can see it's really fast. And then it's back right there. And the minecarts have gone down here. Now, the very simple contraption that a person in my Discord community, my fabulous Discord community, came up with was this. that's it. That's it. And I'm not even sure I can tell you precisely what happens. But if this dispenser puts out a minecart right here, and while this is slightly locked and pulls out minecarts from here and goes that way and takes one minecart back, the result is like this. Normally it will be like this, but it is like this. And I don't know if that's used in other systems. I haven't seen it before, so for me it's an original idea, and it's very, very useful in this system. So that's another new thing in the FabMiss 3.3, which is this one right here. As you can see, these are just, I think it's 15, yeah, it's 15 slices put together. So up until right here, it's just slices. Now let's see how the system works. We start off by having a minecart here. It has been dispensed previously up there, and this slot is open, not this slot, but this slot is open. And then we have a chest right here, which is our input chest. And if we put something in here, it is detected by this comparator and these two observers down there, pushing this piston over, powering this rail, pushing the minecart into this small bubble column up here, and it will go underneath the chest. And I still use the system with two observers looking at each other, pushed by a piston. The piston isn't here. There should be a piston right here. It's quite important for the understanding of it. So right there, because if you don't have this and it is pushed once, you don't have the right pulse right here. But this pulse slows down the minecart, and so does the water. And together, combined, they make sure that every minecart that passes under here will take between 32 and 34 items. Unless you flick this lever, which you can see there's full power on. You use this if you want to sort systems that stack to 16, and now it takes, I think it's 10 items. Still, you will still need to go twice with the minecart to distribute a full stack. Now let's try and put in 64. So you can see the minecart goes here, it takes it out like that, goes down there, goes over here and up here, and we can, barely see it like that. And now it goes down there, and the other minecart is already up there, and boom, finished. And that speed right there is the equivalent of almost 3 items per second, which isn't possible because, I mean, the bottleneck is the hoppers. So if you measure it from when it's put in there till it's ended up fully down here, then you will only be at hopper speed. But if you are looking at it continuously while it's need to storage or distribute a lot of items in the system, it's actually faster than hopper speed. It's almost, instead of 2.5 per second, which is the max hopper speed, it's actually almost closer to 3, which is pretty amazing, I think. Now, we achieve that speed by using this system right here. And this system, as you can see, is just a comparator delay. What happens is that when the minecart rolls over that detector rail right there, which is there because it needs to speed up to get momentum to go down there, we take out a signal right here and leaves it into this small delay system. And this small delay system puts the power or the pulse onto this system. And in this configuration, this basically also just works as a delay. And then you have this is like a T flip-flop, but it works that every second time it changes the current right there. And then you have an observer looking at it and pushing this redstone right here up here by torch tower and firing this. But we need to fire it just a little bit longer because we need to have the minecart actually also move away. So this right here is actually a very janky pulse extender because it takes the pulse, it looks at it at the same time, but we don't want to have a steady pulse. We don't want this to keep on being powered. We just want to power it so it dispenses a minecart and sends off the minecart and then depower. And that's why we have the observer, so that it goes forward and back. And this is the pulse extender. It starts with going forward with this, and then it gets powered by these, and then it only goes back when these go back. So a bit janky, but it does the job. This is one way and the fastest way of using this system, but it is disconnected from the logic. So if we instead remove these redstones right here and put the redstone there instead, and then remove the redstone in here, what would happen is it would get its signal from here. Every time an item is pulled out of the system, it turns on the torch. And then this actually functions differently. Nothing happens the first time. When the filter is put back, a minecart is dispensed and put down here. So, but it's slightly slower, slightly slower on the first slice, and then because of the distance in the water, it gets increasingly slower to the last slice. I opted for in this system to have this, but there's a choice for you to make. This is easier to understand, I actually think, and maybe on some servers, if there's lag and delay, this is more reliable. Now all the slices are the same, but if we look down here, something is happening which is different on the last slice, and this is because this is where everything that you don't have filters for in the system will end up. And what happens is, if we take a minecart, you can see we have a detector rail, and it is detected by this observer here, and it makes a small delay and turns on the torch right here, and then it fires another minecart as well. And at the same time, it turns off this torch and it's pushed. You can see it right here. Goes like that. And it's pushed back just as all the others. And this is exactly the same as in the other two systems. The minecart goes up through the scaffolding right here, and because it's diagonal, it goes that way, and then it's pushed, it goes over here, falls down, and because if we have tracks underneath mud, it will go through and snap down here, but because we have the water, it gives it a slight momentum, so it will actually be able to go that way. Over here it hits these chests and this cactus and gets destroyed. So the minecart, the one minecart, goes in here over this filter, and this filter filters out the minecart. If we try and see if we put in one here, you should see this blink at some point. Maybe it needed to be out there. Let's just try putting it in here. Let's just put in 4 so we can see it working. You can see it's blinking. So it's minecarts go down here, go over here, and go over here and down there. And this right here is a Techman 88 silent dropovator that I've used before in different connections. So it just pushes all the minecarts up here, over here, and let them end up in this chest right here. If there's anything else in the minecart, it will just pass over this filter and go over here and into that was the first one, I placed it wrong, into the overflow chest. Now you can see I've got something in the overflow chest already. And the reason I've got that is because it's also some kind of security. Because if for some reason, especially probably when you're setting up the system and you're testing it out and so on, minecarts get fired and go off without anything here. Normally what they would do is that they would go down here and they would pull out whatever items. And if they happen to pull out one of these items right here, but don't get pushed, and then they pull out some of these items here, and it's all a mess. So because the minecart is going here, if it's not filled with something in the vacant slot already, it will take one of these items right here, which means it will just take it up and fill it into this slot right here. So this is overflow and protection from when you're setting up the system. Now, what happens in case of overflow? Let's imagine that all these chests are filled up. So, and I can simulate that by taking out that hopper right there. And let me just get some items up here and say items are going here. You can see it turns out a lamp. That's it. It turns on a lamp right there. But if indeed it was filled, what will happen is that the minecart goes up here, and normally it will go over here. And right now there's still room. There's 4 slots right here, 5 slots here, and 5 slots in the hopper minecart. And that means this will turn on in good time. And the minecart will just go over here, empty out, be pushed back. If it's finally, if you don't discover it, even though there's 15 slots of items that you're warned for that long, what will happen is just it will go over here, and because this basically is just a timer, the minecart will go back with its item down here, drop down here, and be destroyed on this cactus, and the overflow items will go over here and end up in this chest. The potential downside to this system that I mentioned in the beginning compared to 3.2 is the noise of the minecarts. Listen. So that's an option for you. Alright, dudes and dudeesses, this was the FabMiss 3.3, the fast FabMiss. And now I will be leaving storage systems alone for a bit. My head is spinning with storage systems, but I will, as always, leave a world download in my Discord community so you can go ham on it and try it out and come up with even better improvements and, you know, modify it to your own needs. Okay, thank you for watching. It's been fun. If you're brand new to the channel, do subscribe, and otherwise leave a like if you like the video and want to see more. It helps the channel, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.